Hello, Marky Dragon, also known as Marcus Eikenberry in real life, and welcome to my backyard. I commonly film out here. It's good filming in the morning, but when it starts to get around rush hour, unfortunately, about 4 miles behind me is a freeway, and you can start to hear the big trucks go by and everything. The lake reflects sound really well, because what happens is, like from the freeway, the sound kind of bounces up off the clouds, or off the fog in this case. It bounces off the clouds and stuff, comes back down onto the lake and right into the microphone here. Oh my. But that's what happens. So, let's talk about PayPal and our in this entrepreneurial series, how integral PayPal has become for us. But PayPal launched June 1998, and in 1997, September of 1997 is when I started first doing my first online sales. And back then, we had, and PayPal was not known as PayPal in June of 1998. It was known as X, or X.com. And in fact, if you go to X.com these days, you will find that it redirects to a PayPal site. And I remember I had an actual X.com debit card, and it was so cool because people looked at that back then and were like, what is that? You know, the internet was new. So, I mean, not that new, but, you know, the internet was, you know, new. So I was doing sales before PayPal, and we used to have to do Western Union a lot, where people would mail us checks, and occasionally, if it was really big, we'd do a bank transfer. All of those were very expensive to do, meaning, you know, that like a bank transfer, the banks typically charged money to transfer from account to account, and sending a check, well, you had to let it clear. So the mail had to arrive, and then you had to deposit it and make sure it cleared before you delivered the product. And so that caused people to not get their product for, gosh, you know, 7-10 days, maybe even more. And people did it, but, you know, it wasn't as convenient. And then Western Union, it cost them money to send the money, and so they're having to pay this premium on top. Now, we did a lot of Western Union because it was a secure revenue source, you know, secure payment method, because we could count on that Western Union money, when it arrived, we had it in our hands. And so we'd have it in our hands before we delivered. And that worked out really good. But then came along PayPal. Now, PayPal, I was like, holy shit, this is exactly what we need. PayPal was kind of born because of the need for payments as seen in eBay, when this whole, you know, electronic commerce stuff started to really kick off, person to person. Before that, you could take credit cards online, but again, that was extremely difficult as well. And our company was not sophisticated enough at the time to take credit cards online. So we started accepting PayPal right away. Now, PayPal is pretty revolutionary. You know, they charge between 2.9 and 3.9% for, you know, your first payments coming in and everything, and then it goes down as low as 1.9% if you are, you know, really high volumes, and you have to have these really high volumes in order to get those rates, and they adjust like that. It's not like you ramp up all these sales and you get to these really high rates, and so they drop, you know, so they drop the percentage, whatnot. But then what happens is that if your sales start going back down again, your percentage may go back up because you don't meet the volume requirements. So anyway, PayPal was a godsend. It allowed us to do all kinds of business, and but it also allowed for all kinds of fraud. PayPal is so much better these days. I'll tell you that these days, PayPal still has its quirks and stuff and still has its risks, but it is leaps and bounds better than anything than it was in the beginning. I remember that we had our store, our game code store, and we were selling, I think at that time, we were selling primarily Ultima Online codes. And we had a few other codes. I think we had some Sony games and stuff like that. And I remember this clearly. It was the year 2000. It was the first time I went to E3. And I I woke up in the morning getting ready to go to E3, getting ready to fly out, and I saw that my PayPal account had a huge amount of money in it. And I don't remember how much it was exactly. It was like $10,000, something like that. And so I saw this and I said, whoa, my store just went viral. You know, I must have really hit the jackpot. Some news organization or something must have mentioned us, or something must have happened to cause all of these people to come there and want to buy. And so I'm like, you know, doing some little dance saying, woo, I'm rich. Well, that didn't last long, because what I found was, when I started looking at the orders, is that everybody had the same last name. And I'm like, what? Something's not right here. Something's really not right here. Everyone with the same last name. Come on. So I looked into it a little bit further, and they all had the same domain. So this person had used a PayPal account to buy a domain and then web services, and then they had access to, you know, making different email addresses and everything. And our system was really based on unique email addresses, and then allowing, you know, like up to so many dollars worth of orders in a 24-hour period. That was our whole anti-fraud. And how naive we were. So he figured out a way to game it. And this person with stolen stuff drained our entire store and all of our codes. And so I looked at that and I'm like, oh man, I know that stuff's going to get reversed. You know, so I just left the money in there, and I said, okay, well, we can't fix it this morning. And so the store went without stock for while I was gone to E3. And when we came back, my buddy Tim and I, we worked on it and figured out how to mitigate this kind of risk in the future. And that was kind of the birth of all the anti-fraud that we started doing. You know, PayPal, it's funny, I've lost more money in PayPal than some people may make in their entire lifetime. And so it's quite crazy. I remember one time we got chargebacks that were, I think, $28,000 in total. And I have a previous video on this of where the parents allow their kid to steal $13,000 or something like that. Well, the actual number was much higher. It was like $28,000, something like that. And what happened was that they did credit card chargebacks. And so all of these came back. They had bought a whole bunch of stuff from us, and we thought that they were okay, but it turned out that it was son who took dad's credit card and was using it through PayPal. So anyway, it ended up being a bad situation. We lost a lot of money. I lost another $13,000 in another deal, and you know, losses happen. So nowadays, I can tell you that you know, especially if you're a game publisher and you're trying to do sales and you're losing your ass to fraud, come talk to us, because honestly, we've got this shit figured out, and we can guarantee you that you know, your losses will stay under the thresholds where you're not going to catch any flack from anybody. You're not going to get sanctions on your account. You're not going to get fined by Visa and MasterCard. You're not going to you know, get, you know, rolling reserves placed on you because of the fraud. You may already have them by the time you come to us. And we do white label sales for video game companies. So anyway, just a little plug there. Contact us. You know, store.markydragon.com is where we're at. So but anyway, we figured out how to mitigate all of these and to do the sales, and I can tell you that our loss rates are at the highest about half of 1%. Many months though we're at like 1/10 of 1%. So, but still, even with high volumes, you know, you still get in, you know, a $500 chargeback, and you're going, oh God, that hurts. But it's a fact of life with PayPal. Now, what would life be like without PayPal? Well, it'd be a totally different story. We'd all be dealing with credit cards, and in all honesty, dealing directly with credit cards is harder to do than dealing with PayPal. And PayPal has, you know, many things that you look at it and you say, God, this really sucks that they do that. Well, if you live within their confines of what they, what they do and everything, what they're good at, and then you make that all work, it actually is a very viable solution. So anyway, PayPal, without PayPal, would I have been as successful as I was? Well, maybe something else would have come along. I eventually would have figured out, direct credit card stuff, which, of course, we know how to do these days. But the direct credit card stuff is actually a higher fraud rate than going through PayPal these days. But again, you have to know what you're doing. And we built an entire industry. I remember we built the company called Tristam, which was an anti-fraud service. And that was all, primarily built up because of people sending bad payments and everything. So anyway, that's kind of my history with PayPal. I can tell you that in the beginning, PayPal was much more responsive to customers with their volumes and everything. And now you have to hit really high volumes. You have to hit 300,000, 400,000, maybe even 500,000 a month before you can actually get an account manager. And but the fact is that if you're doing 500,000 a month or 100,000 a month, you need the account manager just the same. And so that's a frustration point for me. And because we have a high level account manager these days, but it took us a while to ramp up in the second company. It took us a little while to ramp up to be able to get that ability, and until we got there, it was so frustrating because we'd call customer service and we'd get one answer from one person, one answer from another person, and we'd be like, well, what the hell is the truth? Which way should we be doing this? And then when we were getting screwed on something and we knew that we were getting screwed and that we shouldn't be accepting liability for it, we didn't have anybody with a sympathetic ear. And so it's important to get your volumes up high enough so that you get your account manager, because that will save you money overall, and there are some other things that they can do for you to help you out. So anyway, thanks for listening, and if you want to check out our store, there's a link in the description. And I'm Marky Dragon. Take care.